Welcome back, Commanders. Community BattleCast PrimeTime. Doomtanker here with all your news, mod, a special edition BattleCast, and fan art. So let's get to it, Generals. You may notice that things look a little bit different than previous episodes. Phase 1 of the Community BattleCast PrimeTime redesign is rolling out. In the following episode, you'll notice changes happening as new assets are released and we incorporate feedback. By the end of the redesign, every asset will be new, but it'll be some time before we have everything ready. So if you have suggestions, let us know. Alright guys, first the big news. EA Phenomic was shut down, leaving 60 employees jobless and the fate of Tiberium Alliance somewhat in question. In the official press release, an EA spokesperson stated, "The decision to let people go is not something we take lightly, and we are working to ensure that the impacted employees are treated fairly and with respect for their contributions to EA, and will assist to find other job opportunities." There had been little word about the fate of Tiberium Alliance servers or Phenomic's other games, but we do have a post on the TA forums by the TA Global Community Manager who said, "We want to ensure you that EA has no plans to shut down the live servers of CNC Tiberium Alliance and any other titles like Lord of Ultima, and that we at Phenomic assist and support EA with any guidance they need to keep the titles up and running." Of course, we'll have to make a lot of decisions in talking with the new team, which is picking up the title, but I can assure that we won't make all the work to let them close it down in a couple of weeks. The new team is excited and ambitious to keep the title running for as long as possible. There's not yet been an official announcement on Phenomic's website, but for now it's looking like Tiberium Alliance may be secure. Do keep in mind that news on this situation is vague at best, so we're not entirely sure what's going to happen. Beyond the Battle Part 2 has been released to the world. The main focus of this part is to show the birth of the GLA nuke truck from the upcoming game. There's a lot of detail and some in-game footage, so what are you waiting for? Go watch it. Another huge announcement is that Command & Conquer will be returning to Gamescom, Cologne, Germany. Not only that, but CommandCom will once again be held. For those of you who don't know, CommandCom was a CNC community summit held at Gamescom, and it's back. This year, Community BattleCast PrimeTime will be attending and bringing you guys the fresh intel on the Command & Conquer game. Sybert and nodsoldiergirl will be attending. As for me, well, I'll be here getting the next episode ready. You know, mods and stuff. No, but seriously, Sybert and nodsoldiergirl will be there, so if you guys see them around the hall, be sure to stop by, say hi, get a picture with them, and have fun, guys. Back to E3 news, we got a late release interview Game Reactor conducted with Brian Farron. While most of the information is old, there are two big things they do talk about: campaigns and the later introduction of the Tiberium and Red Alert universes into the game. Campaigns will happen, but due to the fact that they take a lot of effort, they won't be available at launch, which is great to hear that the devs are taking their time rather than trying to rush it out. You can check out the full interview in the link below. Recently, we've seen a new and incredibly ambitious CNC-related project surface, Play CNC. Now, you've already likely heard about this awesome project, but in case you haven't, let's bring you up to speed on the basics. Play CNC's goal is to provide a unified online experience for every CNC game. In the end, you'll be able to create one account and use it to play every CNC game online that you have installed. They've got a blog where they discuss their plans, projects, and even show off some of the early artwork. Greg Burlett, Play CNC's web developer, posted a recent blog stating, "It's never been about bringing back the servers. That works. Far from it. In fact, we've always been on a mission to reignite CNC nostalgia, to try the utmost to bring the original features back the way they were intended to be played, and create a rewarding and exciting new online experience." We encourage you guys to check out their website, if you haven't already, to learn a little bit about the project. Things have been fairly quiet for the Renegade X front, but a couple months ago, Jam posted a big old FAQ segment that left the thread open for questions. According to the FAQ, Renegade X is currently set to be released in 2013, but no specific date yet. We here at Community BattleCast PrimeTime can't wait to get our hands on this when it's finally done. But if you're itching for some Renegade action, be sure to grab the single player campaign, which is awesome in itself. And here's the special treat for you guys. We've got a new interview coming up, and this time it's with the Rise of the Reds team. We had the opportunity to sit down with a couple of the leaders and talk to them about this incredible project.
Before we get into the interview, why don't you introduce yourselves?
Well, my name's Andre. I'm actually from the Netherlands. I am the main project lead. I do most of the organizing in the mod team and make sure that everything's put together in the end, and do most of the programming and several other tasks such as 3D and 2D art.
I'm Los Malata. I'm the co-lead in the project. I work on several art assets as well as the voice acting direction. Anything from models, textures, even level design is something that I take part in.
How many people actively work on Rise of the Reds? and how did you all meet?
Well, most of us actually met each other through modding communities or basically just on the forums. We have roughly 8 to 10 people who are working on the core team, then some other people who are more specialized in helping out with certain tasks. Then we have roughly a group of 20 beta testers, which we usually select from forum members, ask them if they would like to participate, and then they will be able to play the internal betas that we actually put up every once in a while.
Rise of the Reds is one of the most popular mods for CNC and one of the most popular mods on ModDB. But how did it all get started? Who came up with the idea?
The original idea was from somebody who I only know by the original online alias that he was using, which was Red Army. And they were basically the first team who actually worked on this, and that was basically also when the Russian faction was still supposed to be, you know, like a pseudo-incarnation of the regular two Soviets in that regard. And that's basically how the original mods get started. But those were just a bunch of people who were like everybody else around that time, who were just learning how to, you know, mod this game in general. And I wasn't even part of Rise of the Reds around that time. The whole thing got revised, it moved to a different forum. That's where I basically joined in. Actually got to meet Lewis there. We had the first release, and after which we had a bit of an argument with how it should be run, and we eventually took over from the other guy who was basically working on it and re-released the new version under the management that we currently represent today in 2008, and we have been going on ever since. Before we basically took over, it didn't even really stand out as much as it does right now. Even though we are aware of that, we, you know, put a fair amount of attention to details, the actual statistics are still very impressive.
From what it was back then to like now, I mean, I looked at ModDB and we've tripled the amount of whatever we ever were back then.
What made you want to make a mod, and what has kept you motivated after all this time?
I basically started just because I was wanting to create something else, and just because I was led into the old Rise of the Reds team, it pretty much let me make some of the stuff I've been wanting to make for a very long time, you know, being a big Red Alert fan. Pretty much the motivation just comes from wanting to create something you want to make.
I always personally had the motivation. We don't just develop the game, we actually play it quite a lot. Something that the fans may not realize, we're actually fans of our own work as well. I mean, we really enjoy making all this individual art. It's overall a lot of fun for us to do as well. And obviously the appreciation that only is also a very big motivation factor for us. It's kept me motivated for quite a long while, and I don't really have any intention of stopping anytime soon.
At the end of the day, it may be something that you can put on your portfolio, but even before that, it's really just fun to do. You're sharing this with your friends, you're sharing this with your family, and you're sharing this with the rest of the world, and if they like it, I mean, that's just a plus.
Recently, you've been making a lot of additions with voiceovers. Tell us how that started.
It was fairly easy to just use temporary voiceovers from either Red Alert 2 or Red Alert 3. Although that kind of worked for the time being, it would not work very well for our European faction, which has a lot of units which aren't very common. We actually made an entirely new set of voiceovers for all the individual European units. It would obviously give us a lot more freedom in what kind of voices we want to have. It would actually represent them as a faction as we have always intended it. We're actually now in the planning phase of doing the same thing for the Russian faction. We are fully committed into actually getting all of the units voiced by our own voice actors or ourselves.
Did any of you work on previous mods, or was this sort of first experience for you? How did that affect development?
I first started modifying weapon and damage stats for games in the late 90s, and around when 0 Hour came up, I actually played that game for a little while, and I was just like, this is kind of cool, but it would be way better if I do this and that. And that's basically what later developed into what became known as Shockwave, and that was basically my first big mod project that got widely known and very well heard of, and even featured in a couple of game magazines. I personally always thought there is no point of making new content if that new content can be at least as good as the content that is actually delivered with the actual game. That has always been more or less a goal of myself.
I pretty much started with the whole art development type of thing, and I eventually started playing with the Tavarian Sun edit. By the time I got to when 0 Hour was released, play that for a little bit, and just like Andre, I was like, okay, this is interesting, but let's see what's on the internet. And that's where I found Rise of the Reds, and this is the old team, granted. And through there, I met Andre, to which we worked on Shockwave after that, and then we revived Rise of the Reds, and here we are.
What are some upcoming mods, units, or features that you're most excited about?
Well, one thing that I'm certainly very excited about is is the GLA Recycler unit, something we recently came up with. It's basically a large dumpster truck with a crane in a very improvised fashion built onto the back of the same dumpster truck, which would be able to reverse engineer specially marked salvage crates, which would basically allow a set number of units and the actual truck itself to upgrade with foreign tech. If you have wrecked an American Crusader tank and you would reverse engineer that salvage with your recycler, you would be able to use certain tech from the American faction. This is the kind of unit which really allows us as designers to go completely crazy with it and do all kinds of wonky stuff.
One of the things that we added was the POW system that the original game actually had. There's a lot of voiceovers, a lot of animations, other vehicles and units that were scrapped in the original game, and we decided to bring that to the American faction since we already had the detention center as one of the structures. It's going to replace the CIA rank 5 general power and incorporate it into the detention center as a passive ability. The Rangers will be able to have a upgrade in which they can utilize their flashbangs, and a Ranger can actually go and capture the infantry unit, and you'll have a tally. The tally will then, after a certain amount of time, appear as a general power, and you'll be able to reveal the entire map for a certain amount of time. Originally, the European Research Center was supposed to have 3 different protocol systems: the Manicore, the Pandora, and the Venom. The Venom system is a system in which you unlock exoskeletons. This will enhance your infantry. This will also unlock a brand new kind of pseudo-hero unit. The Venom suit will be a robust, mobile killing machine, basically. You'll be able to utilize different weapon systems, as we'll reveal later. It's incredibly mobile, and we're hoping that it'll be a lot of fun for everyone.
2.0 release is definitely still on the schedule. It's just that we're first obviously going to finish the current version that we're working on. I'm not sure if we can make it in this year, but it's definitely going to be around sometime next year. 1.82, which I think we should call 1.85. We're definitely going to put that one out, I don't know what's realistic, by the end of the summer maybe, or something like that. I'm not sure. Then we're going to go work straight on to 2.0. The way our progress is going currently, I would say that it's fairly realistic that it would be done by next year.
Be sure to check out Rise of the Reds if you haven't. If you're one of the guys who just really doesn't like mods, just give it a shot, and it may very well change your opinion.
Be sure to keep checking out our Facebook and ModDB pages, or if you feel like a jump into the forum, you will also be able to interact with us personally on the forums and keep track of some stuff that we're doing. We do actually also post exclusives on the forum every once in a while, so there's definitely a reason to actually stick around.
There's going to be some cool stuff coming up soon, so stay tuned.
And now it's time for the mod spotlight. I got another batch of mods coming your way, guys, so let's get into it. Our first mod is actually an update to Kane's Wrath Reloaded. Zocom7 has announced the latest update to Reloaded 1.71.1.7. Rolls right off the tongue. 1.7 was the final major patch for the mod, but the source code has been released as well. So if other people want, they can take the mod assets into their own hands. Be sure to grab this download if you don't have it already. Generals World War II is definitely for those historical buffs who also love CNC. This mod for 0 brings the Axis and Allies to the Sage engine with a total of 4 factions to play: Germany, the Allies, Russia, and Japan. So if you're big into World War II history, this is your chance to actually get into it. The Red Alert, a mod for RA3, brings back the action of the original game to the new engine. We've covered this mod before, but with the new 1.2 patch, all of your favorite classic units are back and looking even better than ever. The team even went as far as creating an open cutscene with the in-game engine. This one is worth a download, comrades. Now, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I found these mods when I was checking out some mods, to try out and play, but they're dead. They're sadly dead. And some of these looked really cool. So, in the hopes of maybe sparking up some interest in these mods, perhaps, maybe another team will take a look at them. Why not? Maybe somebody else will resurrect it. Dune Evolutions would have been a great mod, since Dune was the original grandfather of the modern RTS. A mod bringing back this classic would have been great. Sadly, this mod is dead, but it would have been really cool to see it. Tiberium Dawn would have been another classic re-envision of the original Westwood game. They even made a nice little teaser for it. This would have been a Tib Wars mod. It looked like it was making some good progress, but after 2 years of no new posts, it's sadly dead.
It's time for the BattleCast 5. I am Sybert, your commentator, along with my special guest,
PwnageMachine of the General's Gentlemen, and today we've got some Rise of the Reds action coming your way.
Starting off on Flash Effect with a 3-player FFA, GLA Sean, China FNG, and ECA Eulator. FNG secures the central oil derricks while Sean assaults Eulator with quad cannons. Sean does heavy damage before finally getting cleaned up. With his quad cannons all destroyed, Sean doesn't have anything to hold off the overwhelming forces of FNG. Sean GG's out, leaving Olatur and FNG to battle it out. And when I say battle, I mean it. Ulatur turtles hard with base defenses and small armies to defend while FNG takes the rest of the map. FNG throws army after army at the artillery and base defenses of Ulatur, desperately trying to crack him. In the end, it's a flank attack and FNG's relentless aggression that wins him the day.
For game number 2, we are on tournament plains to see a China mirror between Basilisk and the Gamer. Both players quickly battle it out for this crucial expansion, however the Gamer was there first and is able to hold it. Both players, having a powerful economy, are able to quickly build up a large army. The fierce army of Basilisk rolls unopposed into the base of the Gamer, whilst in return, the Gamer proceeds to destroy the entire base of Basilisk. Suddenly, the Gamer attacks with several powerful attack helicopters and crushes the ground army of Basilisks. But due to the helicopters of Basilisks, both players lose their base. Both players are forced to rebuild a new base at their expansion. Both players start massing up another huge army, whilst Basilisk is able to secure a sneaky expansion. The massing of armies continues until Basilisk decides he's ready to push out. The Gamer is ready waiting for him with a huge defensive line of Overlord tanks and Gatling cannons. Basilisk commits to the attack with his monstrous army of infantry, tanks, and propaganda airships. The Gamer moves in his Overlords to halt the line until the helicopters of Basilisk drop their nuclear payload and the Overlords get decimated. Wave after wave of expendable troops flood in for Basilisk, and the remaining Overlords get mopped up. The Gamer's base lies in ruins, so he desperately tries to rebuild. Basilisk muzzles his way through the front door in full force, whilst the Gamer's Overlords are cut off by the mountain. The Overlords are completely outnumbered and get obliterated. With nothing left to stop them, Basilisk marches forward and crushes everything in his path. With nowhere else to run, the Gamer is defeated.
Our third match pits Bruce, Nijaz, and Mitch against Ulatur, Black Wolf, and Shuab on Hostile Dawn. Early quad cannons and Viper helicopters from Ulatur and Wolf put the hurt on Bruce, and he's nearly knocked out only a few minutes in. The southern team turtles hard as Bruce needs the time to rebuild. This is made difficult by the constant attacks from the northern team. Sentinels, Golem tanks, Grumbles, Tesla tanks, Chaparral, Hunchbacks, and Urals are just some of the unique Rise of the Reds units featured in the giant battles of this match. Both teams try their hand at being the aggressor, both going back and forth with huge armies, but there's simply too much stuff on the map for either team to gain a clear advantage. This brutal slugfest forces Bruce out of the game a little earlier than the others, but Ulatur follows shortly after, and Mitch GG's a few battles after that. Suahab mounts a major offensive, but after being stopped in his tracks, he's forced out of the game as well. With no allies left and Nijaz pressing in from almost literally all sides, Black Wolf is forced out of the game.
Game number 4 brings us to Tournament Continent. Here we've got Ulator and Cell battling out against FMG and Generals. Ulator and Cell waste no time locking down the center of the map, securing those extra supplies, and taking a nice foothold on the map. Shortly after, FMG tries to clear out the middle, but with a nice defensive line of tanks, infantry, and Gatling cannons, Cell holds the line. FMG utilizes the amphibious capability of his tanks, flanking into the exposed base of Cell. With the help of General's air support, Cell's defenses are crushed. Reinforcements stream in, and defeat looks certain for Cell until Ulator sends in a single bomb truck that decimates the army of FMG. General's Tomahawks clear out the defenses of Cell and pave the way for a huge attack by FMG. The artillery of Ulator barrage and decimate all of the infantry until a perfect carpet bomb takes them out. The remaining forces of Cell stand no chance against the almighty Sentinel tanks, and as a result, both Cell and Ulator call the GG.
Our final match is on the map, Tropical Thunder, and it's another 3-player FFA, with ECA Shade, ECA Generals, and Russian FNG. Shade expands early to the south and then to the west. The early expansions put Shade too close to comfort, so General Z and FNG start taking down his expansions and moving in on Shade's base at the same time. Leopards and Jeopards attack from the north, while BMPs, Kodiaks, Barentinos, and Sentinels assault from the east. Shade does manage to hold off the attacks, albeit barely. FNG turns his sights towards General Z, and FNG crushes through General's main base before turning his sights to the expansion of the General. FNG doesn't have quite enough to finish the job, but his growing cloud of Hind gunships soon allow him to take down both opponents, meaning FNG takes another victory. And that's your 5 for this episode. Of course, a big thanks to PwnageMachine for joining me in this BattleCast 5, and of course another big thanks to all of the Rise of the Reds guys and all of the people who were in the replays.
And now it's time for community fan art. nodsoldiergirl and I have been digging through the interweb and found you another batch of fan art, so let's get to it. First up, we got an awesome Mammoth Mark III render by Chaos Hour. How about an avatar wreaking havoc on San Francisco in this awesome photo manipulation by Diamond00744? The guys at CNC Minecraft have been busy laying blocks. They showed off 4 new Soviet RA-2 structures: the radar, the battle lab, the nuclear reactor, and the most devastating weapon in the Soviet arsenal, the nuclear missile silo. Want to see more? Check out their official website for all the downloads to make your Minecraft into a battlefield. To go with the Advanced War Zero Power picture from last episode, here's a full GLA army in Advanced War style by Carrion Trooper. Next is an awesome Cyborg Commander sketch by Disco Logic. And here's another little twist I'm doing on the fan art section today. How about some music and some videos? First is an awesome remix of Hell March called Hell March into Apocalypse by Prince of Darkness. And lastly, we've got a fan-made Brotherhood of Nod recruitment video by Delta Romeo Niner. And that wraps up another episode of Community BattleCast PrimeTime. As always, feel free to reach nodsoldiergirl at her email, nodsoldiergirl@hotmail.com, if you got news, mods, or fan art you want to share with the community. And we'll see you guys on the battlefield.